Hey guys, we're back with the BMW E46 330 convertible. This is a 2004 convertible, as you can see. And last week, basically, the door's unlocked, as you can see, right? But it looks like the cable snapped. And when the windows are coming down, when I bring this window down, if I'm going to drop the top or anything like that, you can hear something jamming up or rubbing against the glass as the glass is going into the door. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually, so the door works from the inside, but it doesn't work from the outside. So this door, the door carrier on the inside has two cables, and I think the one for the outside has basically snapped. So this is non-responsive anymore, and it used to be pretty stiff, so I'm not surprised. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and see if we can fix that. Okay, so to fix this, I'm going to just summarize it and we're going to walk you through each of the steps. So as I said, this is non-responsive. The inside door latch is working fine. So this is all still running, which is why I can open the door. So this door card's going to have to come out. I'll show you step by step. But before we do any of that, the window needs to stay up because we're going to need to access the door carrier, which is on the outside. And then even before that, we need to disconnect the battery. And don't forget, there's an airbag in here. So we'll have to remove that if it's in the way. But we'll see when we get the door card open. So first thing, disconnect the battery, get the door card off, get this door card off, and then see where we're at. Alright guys, so to replace this, I've got actual second-hand part. Cost me 35 quid with the cable intact. So for example, if you assume this is the door and you're just basically, you're doing that right to open the door. Now if you look on the mechanism, it's basically just pulling this cable to unlatch the door, right? I think the cable snapped, but we'll know more once we open this up. But this is the complete set, and obviously I won't be using the red. I'll just be reusing my handle, the outdoor of my handle, and attaching it to this door carrier framework on the inside of this door right here. Okay, so we need to disconnect the battery before we start any work. So all I did was pop this cover off. It had a couple of flat screws. You just turn them to make them, you know, flat, like straight like this. And all we're going to do next is disconnect the negative terminal, leave the positive one, move the cable away, put it to the side, and then we can actually start working on that door. So I've loosened it up. I'm just going to disconnect it and then just push it to the side so it doesn't touch by accident or anything like that. What we just might do is just do that so it's stays away, and now we can actually start looking at the door. To get the door card off, we need to do a couple of things. You see this little airbag patch, we need to just gently pry that off. It should just unclip out, and you see we have a little circular cap here, so we're just going to pop that out. That will expose a Torx 20 screws. We'll undo those, and then you have a couple of Torx 20 screws under here. I think there's three, one there, and one right on the end as well. So you take those three out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 screws, and then we should just be able to start to unclip the door card and then lift it out of position after we disconnect the speakers, for example, and the cable for the door latch. That will then give us access to the door card. Remember, the window needs to stay up, otherwise you won't be able to access the door carrier from the opposite side, because that's on the other side of this glass. If the glass is down, it will be blocking access to that. So we'll give that a shot first. Okay, you can see I've unclipped this. It took a little prying, but be gentle, don't damage the leather. And then the cap that came out of there, I had to use a knife just to flick it out without, because the flathead was too thick. So we'll try not to damage that, and you can see it's a Torx 20, so we're going to give that a shot now. So once you've got all 5 screws off, remember, 1 there, 1 in the handle, and then 3 in the armrest underneath, and you have to kind of access them from certain angles, for example, to get to these Torx 20 screws. And then you need to start prying from the side and gradually unclip it. You'll hear it start to unclip. So go all the way around, unclip it. Once you've unclipped it, the door's just going to be hanging on from the top. So we're just going to slightly lift it out and just watch out for the actual door lock. And then we should be able to get access to the card. And then we'll start to disconnect you know, the door latch, the speaker, so we can actually take the card off completely. Remember, there's a speaker down there too. All right, the door card's disconnected, and you can see this cable needs to be disconnected. This is for that inside door handle to open the door. So this, we know this works fine, so we'll just unclip that, and then all we have left are the speakers, which need to be just unplugged. And it looks like all of the clips have survived, so they should be reusable. Normally you end up breaking a clip or two, but I think we're good. So I'll just disconnect the speaker, completely remove the door card, and then we'll talk about next steps. All right, so we're just taking the airbag off. It's a couple of bolts, 3 bolts, and then you need to disconnect it. Remember, do not do this without the battery being disconnected, right? Don't forget that. So the battery must be disconnected, and the window needs to be up so you can access everything that you need. And then we'll have a look at, we'll actually peel this back, have a look at see what the issue is, and then we may need to take this off, and we'll take it from there. So let's get the airbag off. Make sure the battery is disconnected before you even play around with it. Okay. All right, guys, so when we're taking the airbag or disconnecting it, this is super important. Remember, the battery has to be disconnected, and what you need to do is, you see how the clip's together now? So that's how it was locked in there. So the first thing I did was, when it was actually plugged in, I just separated this. You see how I separated it out a bit? And then I separated it only using a plastic connector. Don't use a metal screwdriver. You might trigger the airbag. So just open this out. So you just separate from here like that, pull that piece out there, and then pull the rest like this. Hold on, can you see how it's come away? And then once you've got it to come away, gently just push this straight out, as in straight out that way. Don't pull it up, down, just straight out, and you should be good. If you're not sure, get a pro to do it. There's other videos online on how to remove the airbag connector, so I'll actually watch one of those just now to do that. All right, the airbag's out. So what we now need to do is just unstick this. It's just basically glued in like that, so we should just be able to reuse this glue afterwards. Should just be able to reuse it. So just gradually peel this back. Try not to rip it. I just ripped it right there, you can see that. But there's an opening here already, so we'll just start to peel it back from there. And then we should be able to just stick it back on when we're done and go back in reverse. So just start to peel this back slowly so we can actually see what's going on the inside of the door where the handle is. I started peeling this back, so you can see I had to use a little knife just to help get it back, but once you get this on again, it should just stick. It's pretty sticky. The other thing I've noticed is this is the cable that's connected to the outside door handle, and if you look, it's actually completely disconnected. So either the door carrier's snapped or this has come out. I mean, I don't know how it would come out unless the door carrier snapped, but I can't actually see it because it needs to come out for us to actually visibly see it. And then I can also see that the pane of glass is sitting right here. Can you see that? So this window will need to come out, unfortunately, to get that carrier out and see if it's actually broken or this can be reattached. But like I said, I've got a spare one sitting right there. But before I do that and get the rest of this cover off, I need to get this module off. So I think that's a torque 20 again. Simple. Get it off, disconnect it, get the rest of this cover off, and then we'll probably need to remove the window. But I think it's going to rain, so I might have to wait, and maybe even the window motor before we can actually get that glass out, and then start playing with the door carrier and looking at replacing it. So this is a bit of a long one, but keep watching and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I managed to get this panel off and it should stick back on, but honestly it was a pain. This stuff is sticky, so I had to kind of use a knife to help slice through, and it's still very sticky, so the panel should just stick back on. I have actually torn it very slightly in a few minor places, but we'll have to see how that plays out. We'll have to try and just patch it back up and see if we can add a little duct tape to hold it. It will hold, but the question is it going to be effective in terms of sound dampening and stuff? I hope so. Anyway, this is where we're at, fully exposed. You can see the window motor right there. You can see the inside door latch or door handle right here. It's the cable for that, which is fully intact. This is the cable for the outside, and it's obviously not connected to the handle anymore, which is why it doesn't work. So we need to figure out why. If the door carrier is broken, then we've got a replacement down there. We're not going to use the red handle, we're going to reuse the grey one we've got, but it looks like this glass will have to come out, so that's going to be another pain. Let's get back to that. Let's get on with it. So we need to basically pop this little plastic screw out and this flap, and if you do that, you'll expose this bolt. So we need to take that out. Once that's out, we can actually pull out this little chunk of the door here, and then that'll expose another screw, and then we can start removing the handle from the outside. So let's do that first. So first things first, let's grab this little bolt here. Let's do that now. Okay, so that bolt's out, if you can see that in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come around to the front, and we're going to start removing this piece. And you see it's come straight out. Okay, easy, nice and easy. And then we're going to work on this handle. So to get to this handle, can you see right through there? There's a screw. Let me see if I can zoom it for you. Right there, that Torx 15. That is a reverse threaded screw. So we need to take that out. Then that will allow the front of the handle to actually come out. So if you look, I've actually got the Torx 15 in there. And remember, this is reverse threaded. So we need to go clockwise to loosen this up. You can see, hopefully, yeah, it's starting to come out. Try and get a bit more light in there for you guys. Remember, it's clockwise, not anti, to take this out. It's coming out. Okay, so that screws out now on the inside. So now we should just be able to pull the handle out like this. Bam. So the handle's out. So there's two screws to take the handle out. One was a Torx 15 on the inside, and one was a slightly larger one on the outside. And then you can see the plastic handle comes off. Nice and easy. And we can remove the grommets as well. Make sure you don't ruin these. So we'll take the rubber grommets off, because we're going to need to put them back later. And then we have another Torx 15. I think it's also reverse threaded, so we need to remove that, and then that will actually allow the door carrier on the inside, which is basically the door carrier. Remember, is this metal frame here. Okay, this is the outside of the door handle. The door carrier is this, and it's got the cable in. So this is what we're going to replace, and we're going to put the original handle back on, which is in grey. All right, so the door handle's off, and you can actually see the door carrier now. This is the door carrier, and this little clip is part of that door carrier. So we need to get this out from the opposite side. The problem that we've got is that the glass, or the glass panel, or the glass window is kind of in the way, so we can't actually get the door carrier. Can you see the glass right there? And the door carrier is sitting right here, so the glass has to come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the window down to about here, and that should line up a couple of screws here. So let's do that first. Okay, so you can see I've dropped the glass down to about here, and what that's done is that's actually brought this screw, or this bolt, is now available because I've lowered the window downwards. And also, if we look along this hole, you can actually see that this screw has now become available. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one off, and then we're just going to loosen this one. Okay, and we're going to actually remove this. This is one piece, so we have to just slightly leverage this up. But don't bend this, because it will be permanently bent. Once you just leverage this up a little bit, this whole piece should just slide off the end, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then we can actually get this glass out. And once we've got the glass out, we probably need to take out the motor as well, so we can actually move this frame out of the way, so we can then actually get the door carrier out. So let's get that done. So we need to get this rubber out first. So you can see there's clips holding it in. But what I'm doing is I'm just gradually leveraging it with my hand, just pushing it like this, slowly, section by section. And you can see it's coming out. You can see it started to move away from the position. Don't bend it too much in one direction, a little bit at every point, like just here you can see, and then it will come out. If you force it too much here, it will just bend and then it will be damaged. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift this out as much as we can to a certain point, and then we'll slide it out that way, and all of this piece will come off together. So let's just do that now. So I've managed to unclip it, slide it off this way, and now that's out of the way. So that piece is out. Let's put that away. Okay, so I've started loosening this up. It's an external Torx, so you need to be a bit careful with it. I didn't have the exact right tool. Kind of scuffed it, but it's still coming loose. It should be okay, and it should go tight. And then on this side above the motor, you just need to turn this one a couple of turns. Zooming in, right? Just a couple of turns, and you should be okay. And then the glass should just come out. You'd have to push the glass basically towards the outside and then just lift it out. Okay, so the glass is now out. So you can see when this glass comes out, it's held in right here. You can see the marks, and you see this is where that screw is in that external Torx screw. So once you take the external Torx screw fully out, that one just needs to be loosened, but this one needs to come fully out, and then you need to push this back and separate it from the mechanism, and then it will pop out. But there you go, that's out. Okay, so the glass is out now. So the research I've done says you have to kind of take out this frame and so on, but I think the carrier might just come out as it is. So if you look here, we'll slide it forward and then try and, without taking out the motor and the rest of the frame, I'm going to see if we can just maneuver it. So it's coming out, you see. So here's the original door carrier, and there should be basically a cable in this groove, but it's obviously come out. It looks like something's snapped or worn out right there where the cable is being held in. So if we have a look at the cable, so this cable should be slotted in there, for example, right? So let me show you. So if you look at the replacement I've got, you see the cable's already in situ right there, and then this one is actually popped out, which is why the door lock stopped working. So this, it looks like it's worn out too much, and you can see there's marks of it being ground out, you know, where it's wearing itself down. So I think it's overdone it and it's gone basically. So yeah, I think we'll just swap this one out, use the new cable that I've got. So we need to get the old cable out, which should be straightforward. There it is right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhook it from the actual thing. So let's see if we can get a good camera angle on that. So to disconnect the cable, we're just going to push it back like this. Hold on. Let's get the zoom back. Just going to push it back. So once we've unclipped it, we just basically unlatch it, and that's the cable out from the top. You can see it's out now. And then let's remove this cable, and then we'll just use the one that's come with the existing door carrier already in situ. This is the existing cable, and you can see it's pretty badly chewed up on this end. It was still working. It's not actually snapped, which I'm surprised, but it's actually come out of the door carrier at this end, and the door carrier looks heavily worn. So we're just going to use the replacement I've got and swap them out. So let's get ready and prep that now. So I've got the door carrier prepped. So I took the old handles off for this is obviously a second-hand part. My car's grey, not red, and the cable's already in. So we're going to now get this into the car as a replacement for this one. I don't know what went wrong here, to be honest. The cable's popped out. I'm wondering if it can go back in, but if it can go back in and it's come out before, it will just probably come out again. So we'll just stick with the replacement piece. It looks pretty much identical. I got it for around 35 quid all in, with all the bits and pieces and the screws, second hand. You could buy brand new ones for about 80-90 quid. In terms of door carriers, most of them come without the cable, so you have to buy that separately. So basically it's a reverse of this. We're going to grab this piece, We're going to get it up inside the car there. We're going to thread the cable through and reconnect it to the door latch, and then we can actually go back in reverse and start plugging everything back in terms of putting the glass back in, so on, so on, and so on. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm just going to try and slide this in up there right now. Give me a second. So we just need to try and maneuver this back into position. And another thing is you can actually see it through the top, kind of coming through. So you can see where it's catching. Now, let me try and do this with one hand. So I've managed to get it back into position. As you can see, it's slotted right in, which is cool. And then if you look here, the cable, the previous cable, which is this black one here, was actually just going through this. Hold on. Remember, the cable needs to stay out of the way of the window, so we just need to pop the cable through this black bracket and just basically thread it through quickly, and then that way it will stay out of the way, and then we reconnect it back up to the thing. So watch this. Okay, so I've got the cable back through this bracket, just to make sure it doesn't get in the way of the window. And then now what we need to do is grab the other end of the cable and reconnect it. So you can see I've got it here. Just get it through the hole. Like that. You see that? So now it's in there, and then we just push this around the back and just clip it back into position, and then that's good. Make sure you hear it clip, yeah, like clunk into position. So the door carrier is in position. Obviously the glass is not back in, but I just want to check something, right? So I've closed the door. Now if I simulate me opening the lock and I just pull this back in position, so now that's fixed. So that cable's fully connected up on the door carrier to the latch, and I think we're good to go. So we need to get the glass back in. We need to get the glass slotted back in into, let's see if we can get the zoom right on this. The glass obviously sits right here, and then if you look at the opposite end, the glass will sit, yeah, so the glass will sit right in here as well, right? You can see this is where the glass, so we're going to slot that back in, tighten it back up, get it back into position. The great thing is we didn't have to move this pillar out of the way and unlock all of this and that frame, and I'm hoping we can get away with that. We also, in the end, didn't have to remove the motor, and we were able to get the door carrier out once the glass was out, so that's good. So now next step is to reverse the order, slot the glass back in, tighten it, get it into position, tighten or get that bolt back in on there to hold the glass in, and tighten this one up. And then the rubber will go back, the rubber that goes on here, that rubber grommet and all of that seal will go back in, and then we'll work backwards from that point onwards. Now if these little bits fall out of where the glass was sitting on that side of the door, they need to go in like this, just like this, and they basically slot back into position within remember there was that nut bolt holding the window, the glass in, so that bolt basically goes through here, and this needs to go back into position like that, in that kind of position within that frame, within that silver bit there. It's like a sandwich, so you just slot it back up into position. So I'll show you. So right now you can see, if we look through the gap, you won't see you should see the black hex visible in there. So let's try and get that back in. You can see that I've got that plastic piece back in. You see where my hand is, and it's sandwiched between a bracket. So there's that groovy bit that I put, so push basically right in there, and then when the window slots in, the screw will go right through it, and that will slot into here, and this will hold the window in position. So let's get that done now. So the glass is slotted back in. Just make sure you push it backwards and then slide it in so it clips into this bracket properly here, properly here, and you can just see, where's the camera? You can just see the glass is now sitting right there, right? so make sure it slots fully down as far as it can go. There is a little bolt here that kind of blocks it, so you need to make sure you push the screen outwards and slot that in. And then if you look here, the glass is back into position. Move that out of the way, sitting in its bracket right there, and then that piece is nicely slotted in. So now it's just a matter of screwing this all back together. Fingers crossed it all works, and we're good to go. So the glass is in, it's secured. I just had to remember these are reverse threaded, so you need to tighten them, you need to go anti-clockwise. And there's the glass, you can just see it sitting right there. Actually, if I dip it, that's it there. And then on this side, the glass is right here. It's in, the bolt's back in as well. I've tightened it firmly. It was super tight before, but I'm a bit worried about overdoing it and cracking the glass, but I don't know. I've done it pretty firm. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to secure the door carrier, because I don't want it to move. So I'm going to drop the screw back in there, and then I want to test the window to make sure it goes up and down in the correct position. And remember, on these rim ones, when you close the door, the window goes up into the groove, into the roof by a couple of centimeters. So I'm going to make sure it does that as well. So once I put this back on, a screw in here, I'm going to power the car and double check the glass is moving up and down correctly. I'll actually, before I put the glass test out, I'll put the rubber back in. Remember that? It just slots in this way, and then you clip it down into these clips. That rubber grommet will do that now. Okay, so the rubber's in, you can see that, the rubber seal back into position. The glass is in and it's gone down, so I'm just going to pop this back up to make sure everything is legit before we start closing this back up. And that looks good. And then what I want to do is make sure that when I open the door, the glass drops slightly and then the door opens. Remember how it works? So let's go check that. All right, so it's a good thing I got the glass in, because it just literally chucked it down. So pretty much bang on time. So you can see the glass is in the slot. Now if I open the door, I've not put the handle in yet, but I'm going to do that in a minute. You can see it drops, and if I close it, it goes back up. So the glass is bang on, perfectly back in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reattach the handle like before. So we need to get I've already put the grommets in, and you can see I've put that screw in. So that's just the normal one that goes back in. And then I've put this one on, and we're going to actually get the main piece of the handle on now. We've got the handle. First things first, if you look just through here, it just slots in like this into that groove, and then it goes in right here like this, and then you should be okay. Right, get this back into position, and then we need to get the screw that goes in through that way. Remember, it's reverse threaded, and then there's a bolt that goes in through here. So there's that reverse threaded one that you can just see that will go in there, and then there's another one that goes in through this part of the door right there, the hole there. So let's do that now. Okay, so the handle's in. I put the key fob, the key lock thing back in as well. So it looks like we're back in business. Just to quickly summarize, there's that reverse threaded screw at the back, just through there, straight through there. You get that on for the larger part of the lock, and then this piece just needs to be tightened up for this. So that's that. And now I think we're good. Next is basically get the sound deadening back in, stick it back on. It should just stick back in. Reconnect the airbags, have to go back in. The module controller for the windows and stuff needs to go back in, and then the door card goes back on. So we're nearly there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, now the door handle is working fine, we're going to get this sound proofing back in, and it should just stick. This is pretty sticky stuff, so it should just stick back into position. Just make sure you line it up nicely, and then the airbag, and then the module. So make sure all the connectors for the speaker and everything are exposed and coming out the right side, so they're like that. So you can connect things back up once you stick this back into position. I have slightly ripped it in one or two places like here, so I'll just stick those back in and it should be full cool. Other than that, you just reverse the process, get everything back in. Airbags, the module, the window module that goes basically here like this, like that, and then the door card is reverse order. So that should be it. Okay, so the sound ending's back in. Just push it, make sure you push it back in so it's nice and tight, and even had a little tear here, but it's no big deal. I've got this back box control unit back in, connected up, airbags are connected up back in. Remember, the power should always be off when you're messing with the airbag, so I disconnected the battery just to make sure, reconnected the airbag, and then bolted it back onto the door. And then now it's just the door card, and then connecting the speakers back up, for example, and the inside door handle to this mechanism, and then we're good to go. We're done. That's it. Back in business, so nearly done. So just got to wrap it back up. The windows are working fine. The door handle is back in action, and it's actually even easier to open than it was before. It was pretty stiff before, which is probably why it broke, because that door carrier was probably getting really tired. But now back in business. Please like the video, sub the channel. Any questions, hit me up on the chat, and I'll catch up with you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.